Hello, my lovely people. How are we tonight? I'm so glad you're all here. Oh, good. Matt's here. Hey, Matt. Glad you're safe and sound. Oh, hey, Aaron. Hey, the Squeege of Justice is here. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys came.
Squeege is in the house.
Yes, he is. I don't know what we would do without the Squeege and Aaron, because they do give us a lot of live TV trials. And if you want to watch a trial without interruptions, Trial TV Live, that's the place to go. And the Squeege of Justice gives awesome updates in between. He will keep you up to date on what was said, if you missed something, and it really is helpful. So make sure that you follow the Squeege of Justice or the Trial TV Live that the Squeege of Justice hosts. And Erin, his IT queen, she's always there to keep everything going. And we appreciate that a lot. And Moo is over there playing with toys. What can I say? Moo's a riot. I mean, she's just... I would take my...
She's trying to rearrange her bed.
Oh, yeah. She has a bed up here on my desk. And so she knows when we start talking that she's supposed to be good. And so she plays with her toys for a little bit, and then she usually goes to sleep. Unfortunately, I haven't worked out the camera thing yet. And knowing me, if I tried to touch my camera and then show you what she's up to, I would probably end up messing everything up. So we won't do that, but I'll get Doc on it.
Okay. All right.
Right, Sarah? We'll get Doc on it. Okay. Oh, let me quick. We were supposed to have a guest, but she can't make it. No problem. We will have her next time she's available, because she's actually at a memorial dinner for one of her nieces that has died due to being Native. And so we're going to talk about one of her nieces, but there's another one. So, and her name is Jana Williams. She's up in Minneapolis. She's awesome. She's a realtor up there, but she's a fierce auntie that is speaking up for her nieces and other missing and murdered Indigenous women. So, we really appreciate that Jana was going to try and make it tonight, but I told her, hey, family's more important. So, oh, I'm glad you're safe too, Matt. Ooh, it got struck by lightning. Well, at least it was minor electrical fires and nobody was hurt. That's what counts. Okay, so welcome back, my truth seekers and my warriors of justice. We're going to start our story tonight, and I'm Z, your storyteller in the wilderness of injustice, through the darkness that maps this twisted road that has predators that are hunting and where justice fails us. And as always, my ride or die Doc is here. He's riding shotgun. He's ready to help us uncover the forgotten stories.
Hello.
And these are the ones that the system would really rather us leave them buried. They don't want us to tell them. So buckle up. It will be bumpy. We're about to lead you through another chamber of this house of horrors they call the justice system. So let's begin. And tonight we're going to talk about Jana's niece. And so I welcome all you Trial Junkies United. We want you all here. And we're going to dig into this case that deserves more attention than they're getting. I'm your host, I already did that. Okay. Sorry, guys. I rushed in here fast. You know me, I'm always a day late and a dollar show up, but I got here. So we're going to begin how this family has really been fighting for justice. And Jana is leading the way, man. If you ever wanted an auntie, Jana Sweeney Williams would be it, let me tell you, because she's not giving up. In February 2024, Allison Lussier, a 47-year-old Indigenous woman, was found dead in her North Loop apartment, and this is up in Minneapolis. The medical examiner determined she died from a subdural hematoma, blood pooling between the brain and the skull, people, okay? Her ex-boyfriend, a man who has a documented history of being a violent abuser and being abusive to her and other women, was immediately identified as a suspect because those that knew her knew that he was the one that had done it. Yet, here we are, a year later, no charges. So you might want to know why. Well, we're going to start the story. But before we get into the investigation, I want you to know who Allison Lussier was. She wasn't just a statistic, okay? She's just not some case file that we're going to pull off the shelf and look at. Her family described her as someone who loved to wear makeup. She cracked jokes, made new friends. She was a mother who proudly watched her son achieve his diploma. And she was someone who enjoyed dancing and spending time with her girlfriends. And she sounds like a lovely person. But she was trapped in a cycle of abuse, and it was going to claim her life. And as we've all talked about before, we understand that abusive relationships, you get caught in them. And by the time they have worn your self-esteem down, sometimes you don't think you have an option but to stay with them. You're not brave enough to try and go it alone. And so there's that, they're there, they're gone, they're there, they're gone. So she got caught in this cycle. And I'm going to take you back to February of 2024 now, okay? Allison texted her sister Nicole that her ex-boyfriend, this will be the only time we mention his name, Charles Foss, had returned to her apartment complex, and she texted her and said he's really gotten scarier. He's become increasingly erratic. He's talking to himself and debating out loud whether to hurt her. Now that had to be terrifying. Just days earlier, she had run to a neighbor for help, and only her underwear, because he had choked her so hard she still had the marks around her neck. So Nicole made her sister promise to stay in touch. And Allison was like, if I don't, then you know he's got me. Can you imagine how Nicole felt? That had to have broken her heart. And 5 days later, an apartment caretaker found her decomposing body. Now, the timeline here is heartbreaking, and it's going to show the critical failures of our current system. And on February 13th, so we're going to go back a little bit, 2024, the subhuman barged into Allison's apartment and accused her of cheating. He hit her in the face, began choking her from behind, saying, "You aren't leaving me." So, he left before the police arrived, but she reported him. So, we do know she reported that assault. And so after she reported the assault, they have a thing in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's called a 72-hour rule. And it's in Minnesota law. There is a window where the police can actually arrest a domestic violence suspect without a warrant if there's probable cause. Hey, that's okay. Seems like, right? Well, 3 days later, when Allison returned home, she found the subhuman waiting inside. She called 911. It was only 36 minutes. Think about that. 36 minutes after that 72-hour window had expired. And the officers allowed him to leave, citing the statute. So think about that for a moment. Because of that 36-minute technicality, a known abuser with multiple protection orders against him, even from different women. This wasn't the first time. He had abused other women. He had days before choked her, threatened her life. They let him walk. So when the apartment caretaker, Teresa Durst, discovered Allison's body on February 22nd, she immediately identified the subhuman as the suspect to the police. She said, there's only one person who wanted her dead. And she said, they didn't hear my words. So the initial police response has been called into question. So let's review the records, okay? The crime lab was never called. They didn't bother. There was limited forensic evidence was collected. Surveillance footage wasn't immediately requested. A homicide investigator wasn't assigned until 5 days later, after the body was found. And her aunt told me that the investigator that was put on the case, Sergeant Heyer, it's Heyer, because we call those people out, doesn't really care about the native cases. And that's who they assigned. Two different witnesses independently told police that the subhuman had confessed to beating his girlfriend to death. The police didn't re-enter Allison's apartment for 10 days following her death. So they had the suspicious death. All these people are saying it's the ex-boyfriend. They don't bother to go back there for 10 days, despite reports that the ex-boyfriend still had keys and might even be staying there. They didn't bother to even go look. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, and that's a lovely picture of Brian. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one of Sergeant Heyer. I would have put him up there. But here's Police Chief Brian O'Hara. And you might have heard of him because there was a terrible shooting incident where there was 4 Indigenous people that were shot and murdered. And I was investigating that case when I came up on Allison's, and I still will tell the other case eventually, but this one had to come out first because Allison needs justice. So Chief Brian O'Hara and Deputy Chief of Investigations Emily Olson have defended their department's handling of the case. They say evidence was collected from the scene, pointing to drug use rather than overt signs of violence. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Allison did have an addiction. But as we all are in our chat and in our truth seekers and trial junkies community, we know that addiction doesn't mean you don't get justice. And she deserves justice. Chief O'Hara stated, well, someone died and decomposed with needles everywhere is not a sign that a crime has occurred. Okay. But your ME said that there was a subdermal hematoma. He didn't say anything about the other. Deputy Chief Olson added, the fact that he had a history of domestic abuse does not create probable cause. What planet does Chief O'Hara live on? I would like to know. Because yes, it does, Chief. If you have that history, then yep, it does. Now there is a picture of the subhuman that we are talking about. We don't say his name. We only say it once. So let me give you some context about the subhuman. This wasn't just a boyfriend with a history of violence, okay? The court records show that 2 other women, hey, therapist, glad you joined us, sweetie. 2 other women had secured restraining orders against him for prior abuse dating back to 2013. Now, at this time, we're in 2024. Okay? So that long ago, other women had taken out restraining orders, including vicious assaults while they were pregnant. One former partner described being thrown to the ground and repeatedly kicked in the stomach while 7 months pregnant with the subhuman son. Another time, he burned a woman in the face with a cigarette. And this is someone they're telling us doesn't deserve, a look at. Now, despite this pattern of his domestic abuse history rarely resulted in criminal charges. He has only 2 felony convictions in Minnesota, one for second-degree assault and another for terrorist threats. Now, he eluded law enforcement until late July of 2024. That's when they finally arrested him. But not for Allison's death, no. But it was after a high-speed chase throughout North Minneapolis that ended an hours-long standoff. And according to the police reports, he had stolen a car, rammed police vehicles, fled into a house, grabbed a knife, and threatened the occupants. So the fact that he murdered Allison, they weren't concerned about. But he was in a high-speed chase, had a rough run-in with a few of their people in the police department, and then he took a hostage. So they're going to arrest him for that. And he currently remains in jail on 7 unrelated felony counts, none of them for Allison. Allison's family, this case represents more than just one flawed investigation. Her aunt, Jana Williams, told reporters she was an Indigenous addict, plain and simple. They did not take this seriously. How many of us Indigenous females are going to go missing or murdered without questioning the circumstances? Think about that. If it was Susie Homemaker, we know it wouldn't be happening. Even if Susie was that soccer mom that was on opioids, they'd be checking into her. The numbers back up her concern. The CDC reports that murder is the 3rd leading cause of death for Indigenous women. The National Institute of Justice says more than 84% of Indigenous women have experienced violence. 84%. In Minnesota specifically, findings from the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force show that between 2010 and 2019, and look at how long ago that was. Whoops. He clicked too quick. I wasn't done. So between 2010 and 2019, oh, Doc, 9% of all murdered girls and women in this state were Indigenous. Despite Indigenous Minnesota's accounting for only 1% of the total population. So 9% of the murdered girls and women were the Indigenous women, even though they're only 1% of the population. And those are big numbers. For months, Allison's friends and relatives have maintained pressure on city officials. In February of 2025, a year after Allison's death, dozens of supporters packed a community commission on police oversight, meeting to share personal testimony and encourage an independent review of her case. The city council committee approved that formal audit request in a 12-0 vote. Now, I will tell you that they recently had another protest where they went I think it was on Monday, because they are not going to let this go away quietly. And who would? If this was your niece or your loved one, wouldn't you be shouting from the rooftops? And so now we're going to talk about the domestic violence and what they call enhanced charges that should have applied in this case. Minnesota law provides for enhanced penalties. And what that means, if there is a prior history of domestic violence, which we already talked about, he's had restraining orders. When strangulation is involved, well, we know he did strangle her. She had the marks. She called the cops. They took him away, but they let him go into 72 hours. when protection orders have been violated, which he has walked through. All of these applied to Subhuman. Yet the system still didn't protect her. And they're still not. The 72-hour rule, which Allison's Aunt Jana has been lobbying to change, represents another critical failure point. Williams met with a state senator, Mary Cunshi, I think, about this very issue, questioning why such an archaic limitation exists at all. This case has become what Williams calls a cat and mouse game between the Minnesota Police Department and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. So you pick them up, you let them go. This is the lovely Jana Williams, and she is a fierce advocate and a cool lady. We had a nice chat. I like Jana a lot. Police officials say they forwarded the case to the prosecutor, noting that the family's conviction that the subhuman was responsible for Allison's death. The county attorney's office responded that the Minnesota Police Department case file did not contain sufficient information to support charges and required additional investigation. Well, we know they really didn't do an investigation.
Problems.
Can anybody hear me? Are we back up?
Yeah, it says it's reconnected.
Can everybody hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Yay, yep, Comcast. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
They ruined story time. So the family is grieving and justice is elusive. On the 1-year anniversary of Allison's death, her loved ones gathered at the American Indian Center. They shared stories over a meal, watched a photo slide show of Allison through happier times. As part of their ceremony, relatives placed a wooden bowl with wild rice and blueberries beside a cake decorated with her smiling face, traditional offerings to her spirit. Jana Williams reflected, "We've got to find our voices. Who takes on City Hall at Minneapolis PD and wins? Not in our world." But that's exactly what this family is doing, taking on the system, refusing to let Allison's case be forgotten or dismissed. In fact, when I was talking to Jana today, she was talking about maybe starting a GoFundMe to get some billboards, because she is not going to go quietly. Allison is not going to be one of the voiceless. She's going to have a voice. And that's what we're doing right here tonight, you guys. We're all adding to that voice and continue to share this story. I want to encourage all of you to keep this conversation going. If you want to support Allison's family in their fight for justice, share the story. Use the hashtags Justice for Allison, MMIW. These are things we can do. Once the GoFundMe, if she gets one started, I'll try and get that information out to y'all. But the family is pushing for the Hennepin? Hennepin? I don't know. Hennepin. Okay. County Attorney's Office to move forward with the charges against the subhuman. As Jana wrote, no one should have to fight this hard to get justice in a loved one's murder. They're the ones having to do everything. Oh, yeah. Fallon went to see Metallica last night. But in a final shocking twist to this already disturbing case, Allison's family reports that the county attorney's office has privately acknowledged that they believe that the subhuman is responsible for the death. Yet, according to the family, the county attorney, her picture's right here, let's say her name, Mary Moriarty's office has suggested they should be happy he's already in jail on another charge, implying that pursuing justice specifically for Allison isn't worth the expense of a trial because they need to save money. Isn't that great? We need to save money, so we're not even going to bother to, convict him. Not even give him a trial. Not let Allison's story be told. And then they'll probably let him out early. I mean, this is wrong. She deserves her justice. She deserves her voice. She deserves her name to be said. And it's Allison Lussier. If I'm saying it correctly, if I'm not, I apologize to Jana and her family. But this callous cost-benefit analysis of a woman's life raises some serious questions about how our justice system values Indigenous people. And as Jana has repeatedly stated, her life deserves the full measure of justice, not a bureaucratic compromise. Like I said, if Sally Homemaker, blonde and blue-eyed, would be in this situation, she'd be getting justice. The perp would go on trial. We'd all be seeing it on the news and hearing about it. But where is Allison's story? Who is her voice beside her family? We're her voice. Bella, take care of that migraine. Reminding you that the justice matters. Every voice counts. Some cases really deserve more than just a headline, don't they? Because they don't need just a woman found on this date, deceased. She deserves justice. Now, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. We understand that there are a lot of women. It's hard to leave these relationships. We can't fault them. They have been broken down. Their self-esteem is nothing. And it's hard to walk out. We know sometimes it takes 7 to 8 tries before they can leave. And once they leave, that's the most dangerous time for them. Because they may have left before and gotten the consequences. So now we're going to do a couple of updates. We have the Emily Pike case and the federal response to the violence in Indian country. Emily Pike's tragic case, it really starts in 2023. And that was when she was 13 years old, you guys. And she reported that she had been sexually molested. And that was the first time she reported it, okay? The first time. And the FBI investigated. They found a suspect, and he was indicted in 2024 on other children's charges, not Emily's, other children's charges. Then she had a second sexual assault in Carlos Apache Reservation. And this time, for some reason, they sent out the tribal game and fish versus sending out the tribal police. Now, she was SA'd, not, having a problem getting a license fishing or something with game. This was a child that was SA'd, and they sent tribal game and fish. A relative was arrested, but released without charge. The BIA investigated, which is the Bureau of Indian Affairs, investigated, but never forwarded the information to the U.S. Attorney's Office. So they failed to protect her. Instead, what they did was they removed her from tribal land and sent her to a group home. So in other words, they were showing her she was the problem. It wasn't what happened to her that she was not protected. She was the problem. You have to go away. She did try to delete herself November 8th of 2023. In Colorado, she had gone with her dad to visit in 2023 Thanksgiving, and they said that she had an incident up there with a confrontation with the police where she reportedly reached for an officer's gun, and they actually hospitalized her in Aurora, Colorado. But the group home they went up there and picked her up. They went up and picked her up and brought her back to the group home. Then the final disappearance was in January of 2025, where she left the group home. And then her remains were found February 14th. But, you know, that's the thing, is nobody told us about these 2 SA assaults and what that poor child was dealing with. They kept talking about her depression. Well, yeah, I'd be depressed. She was 13 when it happened the first time, people. So, you know, now we do have immediate response at the time they found her. But now it's kind of, there's a lull. So we need to get the voice back up there. We need to be saying her name. The law enforcement, the San Carlos Apache tribe, has offered a $75,000 reward. The FBI is matching it with a $75,000 reward. Tribal investigations into 2023 case handling. So they're trying to get more information out there. There is a thing called Emily's Law, Arizona HB 2281, which is a statewide alert system for missing Indigenous people. And it's supposed to be going through the system. So another thing is Operation Not Forgotten is a federal response that they have issued, where the Department of Justice on April 1st is going to be deploying 60 FBI personnel on 90-day rotations. Only 90 days. They rotate. And it's only a 6-month operational timeline. There is a crisis with missing and murdered Indigenous women. It is, and people. I mean, there are boys and men that are also missing and deleted. It is, as someone told me, well, Janice said it, and I also heard it elsewhere, it's a genocide. It's like they're trying to wipe out the Indigenous people. And they're going to give them a 6-month operational timeline. Geographic focus areas, the Phoenix Field Office covering Arizona. Other participating field offices nationwide will be, the one in South Dakota, because, yeah, it is sick, Sarah. I kind of, re-victimization, fella. You're right. The FBI's caseload in Indian country, 4,300 open investigation, and that's for 2025. Over 900 death investigations. Historical pattern of under-investigation has always been what's happened up there in Indian country. Jurisdictional complexities, because you have some tribes have tribal police, then you have the FBI, then you have the local, and everybody fights over who gets, what. The tribal leadership's response at times has not been the best, but we have one from the Oglala Sioux president, Frank Starr, has come out with his assessment. He says persistent resource shortages on the reservation, staffing ratios is 30 to 35 officers for 3.3 million acres. Now think about that. 3.3 million acres, and you only have 30 to 35 officers, and they're not going to be working at the same time. The population that they serve is 55,000 tribal members for the Oglala Sioux up there, and the South Dakota Attorney General, Marty Jackley's position. South Dakota's, they had a missing and murdered Indigenous Peoples Conference. They had multiple agency coordinates come in and they were talking about these issues. Those are some of the stats up there on the picture. So it's something to think about. But we do have some good news. Now, there is an update. Veronica Cruz, she was the young lady that was at the same group home as Emily, and she was missing before Emily in May of 2024. Because we kept hearing conflicting reports. Some people were saying she had been located. Some people were saying that's just the CEO of the group home saying that. I called and spoke to Detective Silva. He's handling the case. And I asked him, I said, we're going to put it out. She's a missing person. Is she a missing person? He said, no. She has been found. She was found March 25th of 2025, and she's back with her family, and she is safe. You know, that's all he could tell me, but so we can at least have some good news that Veronica was located. But now we have an urgent alert, you guys. Delilah Whitedress is a missing person case. She's 63 years old. She's missing from the Pine Ridge area in South Dakota. Now, she disappeared between March 8th and April 8th of 2025. They think approximately 1 to 2 months sometime in there is what's been reported. I don't know why nobody checked on her sooner, because her family is worried about her. Her description is she's 5'5" to 5'6", 160 to 170 pounds. She has brown hair, brown eyes. They said she's likely wheelchair dependent. I don't know what that means. Either you are or you aren't, but they said likely. They said that she's a resident of the Pine Ridge area. She may have mobility issues. So maybe at times she's in the wheelchair and at other times she feels better and isn't. Maybe that's what they're saying.
Reconnecting. Reconnection successful.
Hey, we had a pause again. They wanted you to think about this case. So there's no leads right now. So she's an active missing person. They do have it listed as urgent, you guys. So the Oglala Sioux Tribe Department of Safety is investigating. The public assistance is requested. So share on your social media. It's Delilah, was it little white dress? Oops. I forgot he's got this hooked to that computer and mine. Delilah White Dress.
Go back. Oh,
it's Delilah White Dress. So please share, you can look it up in Facebook or just plug in Delilah White Dress missing and then post it. Put it on your social media. Let's try and find her, because this poor little lady needs someone to stand up and speak for her. And so let's see. Our next person we have will be, okay. Oh, the contact information for Delilah was 605-867-5111. And that's the Oglala Sioux Tribal Department Police. Now, an alternative local police department also. I mean, if somebody finds her, call somebody. Now, this is Ariana. I'm not sure how to say her name. Do you know how to say that last name, Cal?
Trujillo?
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 Okay, thanks,
maybe?
Doc.
Maybe?
You got me, babe. She's 17. She was last seen on April 17th, 2025, around 6 p.m. in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So now we're back in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're kind of popping around the states here. Her last known clothing were white pajama pants with the black anime emblems and a gray jacket. Her last actions were she left her foster home with all of her belongings, entering a black 2-door Jeep driven by a friend. I'd like to know who the friend is. Notable information, she thanked her foster parents before leaving, suggesting a planned departure. There's been no phone activity, or confirmed sightings since April 17th. Now I'm worried that she hasn't used her phone. That's concerning. She's not in contact with her family. Nobody knew her destination. I mean, I'm trying to figure out why the foster family didn't ask a couple of questions, because she was in your care. She was a minor. The police are actively investigating. If you have tips, Santa Fe Police Department, 505-428-3710. Detective Adrian Lujan, lead investigator, 505-955-5425. Now remember, some of these people could be trafficked. So they could be anywhere. Doesn't mean she had to stay in the New Mexico area. So let's keep an eye on this, guys. We need to get this girl home. Now we have a missing person, and his name is Renzo Bullhead. This is going to take us to North Dakota. He's 20 years old, and he's been missing since March 16th of 2025. He was last seen walking across the Burlington Northern Railroad Bridge between Mandan and Bismarck, North Dakota. Okay? So he's up there in North Dakota. He went across the bridge. And let me see here. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. And his physical description is he's 5'11". He's 180 pounds, black hair, brown eyes. Case number was right there, 25000-954. The reward is $7 for any information leading to his safe return. His last known whereabouts, there is security footage that shows him walking east on the railroad bridge around 8 p.m. on March 16th. He had contacted a friend who was supposed to pick him up on the other side.
We're down again.
Are we back up?
Is it coming back? Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure.
Can any? Okay, I'm good. Thanks,
we're
Sarah.
back up again.
All of a sudden, I disappeared. Well, I didn't disappear. I'm here.
Goodness, I don't know what the deal is.
Oh, I do have my No More Stolen Sisters t-shirt. It finally arrived. So I'm wearing it. Because I usually always wear red when we do our Thursdays, but I wanted a shirt. So I got one. Now, there is, we were talking about Renzo. He was located on security footage walking across the bridge. He was supposed to have a friend pick him up on the other side, but his phone location confirmed his presence on the bridge. But there's no footage showing him leaving the bridge or returning to the west side. Now, he is a member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. He is a student at United Tribes Technical College, the welding program. He recently got engaged. He's considering a military career. So this is not a young man that would have deleted himself, okay? So this is a young man that something has happened to because he had plans. There have been multiple tribal nations that have involved themselves in this search to help. The Rock Sioux tribe, the Spirit Lake tribe, Mandan, I'm not going to massacre it. I'm sorry. The Arikara Nation, the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. So all these tribes are searching for this young man. They've included boats, drones, sonar technology, horses, search dogs. They are focused on the Missouri River and the surrounding area. They are having daily briefings at the United Tribes Technical College, and the updates are provided by his on the Renzo Bullhead search page on Facebook. That's where you can find updated information. How to help? Contact the Mandarin Police Department with information, 701-667-3250. If you know something, submit an anonymous tip through the FBI's online tip form. Share awareness of this case. Join the search efforts, contact the FBI or the Facebook page for details. You can do looking online for people. There are different ways to assist. Find out in what way you can, even if it's just to support the page. One of the many missing Indigenous people in the region. The family notes concern about other unsolved cases in the Mandan area. The search has continued for nearly 2 months, you guys. 2 months they've been looking for him. His parents, Delane Blue Thunder and Deidre Leaf, are devastated. They have traveled from South Dakota when they learned of his disappearance. But something I want you all to think about is justice for MMIW. It's not just a holiday. It's just, it's every day. May 5th was the day of awareness, and a lot of people participated. They wore their red. They might have put the red handprint across their face, gone to an event. But it's not one day. This is something that's happening every day. There are missing and deleted Indigenous women. There's a persistent crisis that's demanding our attention, our action, not just on that day. So even though May 5th is good because it does bring awareness, there is accountability year-round that needs to happen, you guys. So if you know someone or if that's experiencing domestic violence, contact that domestic violence hotline, 1-800-799-7233, or text START 88788. These are things that sadly we have to help our family members when they're having trouble sometimes. Don't put them on the spot because that will only make them feel worse. Be that listening ear. Sometimes you might think, I don't want to hear about it again because they won't leave them. But they need an outlet until they're brave enough and get the self-confidence to do it. Be there for them. Be their voice. And if something tragic happens, don't stop saying their name. Allison Lussier, let's say her name. She's not getting justice. We have Emily Pike. She needs justice. Renzo Bullhead. He needs justice. Delilah White Dress. She needs justice. Ayana Triol. I'm sorry, you guys. I had a hard time.
Trio.
When I met Doc and we decided we were going to get married, I had all my friends go up and ask him how to pronounce his last name because I wanted to make sure that if it was going to be my last name, I could pronounce it. Just saying. So.
Yes, Sarah, we'll put him in the description.
Doc will do that for me. He's good at that. Thank you for the hint, though. That helps. This is all new to us. We're new at this. Any suggestions are welcome. If anybody has a case suggestion, please, emails in the description. Let us know. We'll be glad to, look into something. Hopefully, we're going to be in contact with Jana. We might end up doing another case, maybe on her other niece, or just some people up in the Minnesota area. Because we're not going to be quiet. We're shining the light on the darkness. We're not going to let these authorities like Chief O'Hare, who just tried to pass Allison's case off on, well, she had drug issues, so we don't need to take it seriously. No. She was murdered. She needs help. Her family needs help. They need justice. We're not going to shame them because they have an addiction. They need help. And so we're going to be the voice. We're the truth seekers. And we're the justice warriors. And that's what we're looking for, some justice for all these people. You guys are the best. I appreciate it. Let people know to come check us out. Thursdays is always going to be Native and Indigenous people that we talk about. Sundays, we talk about predators, and I think this Sunday we're going to talk about some John and Jane Doe cases. If you have a suggestion for a true crime story you want told, let us know. We'll check into it. We love suggestions. I love interacting with you guys because you're the best community that we're starting here. And I appreciate you. It usually takes us till the next day once this stream is gone for us to publish it. because I don't know. It's a YouTube thing and a dog thing.
Yeah, well, it's a YouTube thing. It usually takes at least into the next day, into like maybe the afternoon or evening before it's processed and ready to go.
Before it's cooked.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Sarah. Hey, you're one of our strongest supporters, and we love you, my little sister. So, but tonight, I just wanted to give Allison a voice because she deserves it. Her family deserves justice. All these people do. So I thank you all for coming. I want you all to remember every killer counts on our silence. We don't want to be the reason that we have to tell another story here on this channel. So if you know something, say something. Because that wasn't a mannequin. It never is. So until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, people. We love you, all of you. Good night.